Hey, welcome back to the channel. When it comes to music, one of the most important elements, if not the most important, is what is known as dynamic range, which stands for the difference between a loud signal, a loud part of a song, and the quieter part, and the interaction between both. That is due to the fact that human beings understand loud signals as much more exciting, much more impactful, and in contrast, when we listen to something that is quieter, we always associate it with something more personal and intimate. And it is thanks to that factor that music is what it is. With that being said, one of your many objectives as a mixing engineer is to make sure that the sound of your music is as loud as possible without destroying the concept of dynamic range. And a way to do it is by using a referencing methodology such as loudest, which stands for loudness units full scale. And as a measurement tool, you use it to analyze the sound of a track from start to finish, and it will show you how loud it is throughout time as an overall. That's important because nowadays most people consume music through streaming services. And those streaming services, in pursuit of consistency in loudness, have implemented something known as normalization, which basically speaking is limiting and compressing the leaving stuff out of any signal that is louder than the set threshold. Each platform has its own standard, and you can see some of them right now on your screen. And in this video, I will show you one of the tools that I use to make sure that when I am mixing, I'm not louder than I should. So let's get into it. But before we go, if this is your first time on the channel, I welcome you because in here I show you every single thing I do in order to create, write, produce, and of course perform my music live, because I know that making a living as a musician is not a dream, it's a possibility. And if I can do it, of course you can do it. With that being said, let's get in. Now, let's begin. We're going to do something known as gain stage, which is the art and science of not clipping the living stuff out of our summing bus. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be trying to push faders, which you would do if you don't have a surface. With your mouse, not a problem, it's exactly the same. This is just faster and fancier. But you should be able to do it as well with your mouse, just one at a time. That's the benefit of having a surface like this. You can do all of them at a time. So let's begin. I usually would hit my vocals as the reference point or the lead sound, just to make sure that I'm gonna be setting the stage. Sometimes, well, this is something important. I will recommend you to do this. This is a plugin I recommend you to get. It's the almighty and powerful Decibel. And let me show you. Let me find it first. Where's it? Decibel process out. Here it is. Decibel. Super important. Decibel is a very comprehensive mirroring system that allows you to create your own display, showcasing only the stuff that you want to see while mixing, which also allows you to calibrate it so you can rest assured that you're hitting the mark. What is this? It's a mirroring plugin. There are tons and tons of this, but look at this bad boy.
Big.
It's bigger than a battleship. No, but you can actually adapt it. Look at this. Sorry, a little bit too much. There it is. And you can tailor the content of its character to your heart content. I'm going to do it because it's way too big. I'm going to go for my classic single mirror. Yes, I want the super mirror. For this exercise, we're going to be using one of the modules inside of Decibel known as the super mirror. Let me explain how to understand what you see. Super mirror will show you the loudness represented by louds, the dynamics represented by true dynamics, and peaks represented by true peaks. The outer rim displays short-term measurements, 3 seconds time span, for a real-time view of your program. Respectively, your louds, while the inner rim displays your integrated measurements since the beginning of your recording. It's important because streaming services, modern streaming services, have different standards. Depending on how loud you mix your song, it's gonna give the chance to the mastering engineer or to yourself, if you're gonna be the one mastering the track, to push it as loud as possible without going super loud. Because if you trespass at set threshold of louds that will be tracked by Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all of those things, they will apply an extra layer of compression. They will squash your mix even more. So if you send something that is overly loud, it's going to be detected by the stuff on Apple Music, and it's going to be squashed even further, ruining the dynamic range of your mix. So in order to avoid that from happening, you use a meter like this one. When it comes to mixing, I recommend you to stick somewhere in between -25 and -19 louds. That will allow the master engineer to get your mix as loud as possible without destroying the concept of dynamic range. This is the one I like, but there are several. Adapter, the people from Adapter, they have a very badass one that I think is called Streamliner. I also have it here. It's very good as well. This one is my favorite because you can do this. Let me show you. On my phone, I have an app called, properly of course, Decibel. Look at this. Whoop. It's loading, but you will see something magical happening. Now I got the same visuals of my plugin, Decibel plugin, on my phone. If I close the plugin, I still have it on my phone. That's badass.
Very cool.
It's very cool. So that's one of these, and actually have here something that you never saw before, because I got a different camera here. I got a stand here that I always have in front of me while mixing. Okay, very important. Here we go. So, which would be my main sound in this case? I would say it is my arpeggiator, is my lead. So let's begin with that one. I'm gonna push it to the point on which I feel that it's already loud enough. I'm gonna keep an eye on my meters. I'm gonna make sure that you also have access to them, because it's gonna be tough for them. It went back to Apple Music, whatever. Let me do it quickly. Minus 19. Bam. It's gonna be tough for just the arpeggiator alone to hit the minus 19. So just be mindful of that. Here we go. Okay, do you see that this sound begins to ramp up in volume? I used the loudest part of the sound to set my loudness. Make sense?
Makes sense, yes.
So I can see now that I'm almost pushing my fader all the way up to 0 dBs. I'm going to lower it. Why? Headroom. Because if I want to automate it later, if I am all the way to the top, I will have very little room for it to happen. Another thing to keep in mind while mixing is allowing yourself to have some form of headroom, which will allow you to keep pushing your faders harder whenever it's needed. If you're mixing too loud and way too close to the target that you're aiming for, whenever you need to push something louder or add some form of automation, you won't be able to do it. So always be mindful of that. Now let's begin with the bass now. First, I'm gonna create a loop. Wakala. There is, but I'm gonna make sure that it's musical. So we're gonna be looping back and forth at the beginning, just to add the rest. But you know, one thing. Pro tip: when you do this, I recommend you to take a look at your regions, or better put, to your giving a look at the rough mix and look for the loudest point. How do you know which one is loudest? The one that looks the messier. So try to loop the loudest section rather than the quieter. Why? Because if you use the loudest, the quiet point to set the controls for the sun, you're gonna be surprised and it's gonna knock your socks off once the mix ramps up, because it's gonna be more voluminous in volume. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Let's do it. Here we go. How do I know how do I know that this is the loudest? Because it's the one that has the most instruments happening at the same time. Okay, so here we go. Okay, at this stage, I need to understand now the sound of the mix. I don't know about you, Thiago, or those of you watching, but I feel that I'm not feeling the position of the drums and bass in relationship to the other side, to the other instruments. So we're gonna redo this. I'm gonna reset my monitoring here, my reference, and let's do it again. We already know that our arpeggiator is very loud and also moves and has some form of automation. I'm gonna try to make sure that I'm not blasting my mix and crossing the threshold of 19. Mixing like this means that the sound coming out of your system is not gonna be as loud as you might expect. That's why you have to compensate that loss of volume by the use of your output controller on your interface or converter. Here we go. We already established the arpeggiator to be the loudest. And remember when I told you that when we pushed the arpeggiator by its own, we were close to 19, very close. What happened when I added the rest of the instruments? We crossed it.
By a good bit.
Yeah, why? More audio is coming out, summing together, creating a louder signal. Let's continue. So I already dug down, and Robbie suggested the -3 rule. Right now, since this guy goes very loud, let me check how loud I have it right now, -8.9. So let's see. Here we go, bringing back the decibel. Okay, we are within a range, but I feel that I'm a little bit too loud. Why? Because my headroom for an automation passed to the master bus, it's basically none. So easy. Let's talk down everything. Again, we're gonna use our arpeggiator because the one that I didn't move. I'm gonna dock it a little bit more. I'm gonna reset again. Bam. And let's do it again. Okay, way better. Mm-hmm. We are hitting -19, allowing us to push it a little bit louder once we hit the final stage. And also, you can take a look at my faders over here in my mixer. Let me make sure that I'm on it. Look at that. Tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of headroom for each of my instruments, which will allow me for, let's say, let me showcase the bass a little bit more in this section. I can do it and then knock it down. But that's important. So there you have it. I cannot stress enough how important loudness and dynamic range is in music. One of the reasons why modern music is not necessarily praised for its sound is due to the fact that everything is super loud and there is no form of dynamic range in between tracks. Everything sounds basically the same, and when everything is the same, nothing is exciting. That's why you should always keep in mind that when mixing, try to preserve as much of the dynamic range of the track as possible. And through the use of tools such as Decibel, now you know how to do it. If you like to support this kind of content and you want to keep us producing free content like this, the best way to do it is by listening to our music on Apple Music or Spotify, and also by joining this channel and following us on X and Instagram, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us in a much more personal basis. Don't forget to ask anything underneath, and of course, the only thing left to be reminded is that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that I will see you when I see you.